Dr. Hansel Park shielded her eyes from the bright purple sun of NK 427. Even through her protective suit's visor, the light was strong enough to make her squint. The planet's harsh conditions had earned it the nickname the Unconquerable among space explorers. With surface temperatures reaching 200 degrees Celsius during the day and dropping to minus 150 at night, most scientists said nothing could survive here. She carefully moved her feet across the crystallized ground, following the readings on her scanner. The surface looked like glass, formed by centuries of extreme temperature changes. Her team of 3 other researchers spread out behind her, all connected by safety lines. "Dr. Park, are you sure about these readings?" asked her assistant through the radio. "The deep scan shows some strange patterns about 2 meters down." "Keep recording everything," she replied, moving forward slowly. "This layer of crystal is different from what we've seen before. The composition is unusual." The team had been on NK 427 for 3 weeks, studying its unique mineral formations. No one expected to find anything remarkable. This was their last survey before heading back to Earth. The Interstellar Archaeological Institute had only funded this mission because they needed to check all potential habitable zones, even the unlikely ones. Hansel stopped suddenly. Through the clear crystal surface, she saw something that made her heart beat faster. "Everyone, converge on my position," she said into her radio. "I need confirmation of what I'm seeing." The other researchers carefully made their way to her location. Hansel used her tools to clear away some of the loose crystal fragments. As the surface became clearer, there was no doubt about what they were seeing. "That's impossible," whispered one of her team members. Perfectly preserved in the crystal layer were footprints. Human footprints. The shape was unmistakable. The curve of the heel, the impression of 5 toes, the typical stride pattern of a human walking. Hansel's hands shook as she set up her dating equipment. The crystal's properties made it easy to determine its age. When the results appeared on her screen, she checked them 3 times to be sure. "The crystal layer containing these prints is 300 years old," she announced. Her team stared at her in disbelief. "But that's impossible," said another researcher. "Humans didn't have space travel capability 300 years ago. The first interstellar journey was only 150 years ago." Hansel nodded slowly. "Exactly. These prints predate our official space travel history by 1.5 centuries. She began taking samples and recording detailed scans. "And look at this. The prints show a clear path. Whoever made these wasn't just walking randomly. They were heading somewhere with purpose." As they followed the trail of prints, they discovered more evidence: tool marks in the crystal, deliberate arrangements of rocks, and finally, a small carved symbol in the crystal surface. It looked like a combination of Korean characters, but in a style Hansel had never seen before. "This changes everything," she said, carefully photographing the symbol. "We're not just looking at mysterious footprints. We're looking at evidence that humans reached this planet long before we thought possible." She stood up and looked at her team. "And whoever they were, they wanted us to find this." The purple sun was setting, creating beautiful but dangerous light patterns across the crystal surface. The temperature was already beginning to drop rapidly. The team needed to return to their base immediately, but Hansel knew this discovery would keep her awake all night. As they packed up their equipment, she took one last look at the footprints. Someone had walked here, on this impossible planet, 3 centuries ago, and she was going to find out who they were, no matter what it took. Their discovery would soon shake the foundations of human history. But for now, only the howling winds of NK 427 witnessed their excitement as they made their way back to base, carrying evidence that would change everything. Lee Do-hyun stood at the front of the conference room at the Interstellar Archaeological Institute, looking at the holographic display of the footprints. As chief science officer, he had seen many strange discoveries, but nothing like this. The room was filled with the top scientists he had personally selected for this investigation. "These footprints are real," he said, pointing to the detailed scans. Our tests confirm they are genuine human prints from 300 years ago. Now we need to find out how they got there. Kim Mireille, the environmental specialist, raised her hand. I've analyzed the crystal formation around the prints. The preservation is perfect because of a unique mineral reaction that happened right after the prints were made. It's like nature took a photograph of that moment and kept it forever. The room was quiet as the scientists looked at the detailed images. Du Hyun clicked to the next slide, showing the strange symbol Dr. Park had found. This is where it gets more interesting. Our language experts say these markings are definitely based on Korean characters, but in a style they've never seen before. Choi Ta-won, the historian, stood up next. He was younger than most people in the room, but his knowledge of space exploration history was unmatched. I've been searching through old records. 300 years ago puts us in the early 21st century. Space exploration was primitive then. They had just reached their own moon. Getting to NK 427 should have been impossible. Yet someone did it, said Park Ji-woo, the quantum physicist. She walked to the front and pointed to the footprint patterns. Look at the depth and spacing of these prints. The person was walking normally, which means they had solved the gravity and pressure problems of NK 427. Even today, our protective suits have trouble with those conditions. Do Hyun nodded. That's why we're all here. Dr. Park's discovery isn't just about footprints. It's about technology that shouldn't have existed. He brought up another image, showing the tool marks they had found. These marks show precise cutting and shaping of the crystal surface. They had advanced tools. Mireille spoke up again. The crystal analysis shows more. There are trace elements that don't match the natural composition of NK 427 surface. They'd brought materials from Earth. But how? Ta-won asked, flipping through his historical documents. Every space launch from that period is documented. None of them could have reached another solar system. Unless, Ji-woo said slowly, they had technology that wasn't officially recorded. She walked to the hologram and pointed to the strange symbol. What if this isn't just writing? What if it's a signature? Do-hyun looked at his team. That's our mission. Find out who these people were and how they got here. Someone on Earth, 300 years ago, had technology far beyond their time. And they left us these clues on purpose. He assigned each team member their tasks. Mireille would study the environmental data. Tai-won would dig deeper into historical records. Ji-woo would analyze the technology implications, and he would coordinate with Dr. Park's team on the planet for any new discoveries. As the meeting ended, Do-hyun stayed behind, staring at the footprints. In his 30 years of scientific work, he had never seen anything like this. These weren't just marks in crystal. They were a message from the past, waiting to be decoded. His computer beeped with a message from Dr. Park on NK 427. Found something new, it read. You need to see this immediately. Do-hyun quickly called the team back. Their investigation was about to take an unexpected turn, and he knew they were just scratching the surface of a discovery that would change humanity's understanding of its own history. Choi Ta-won sat in the dimly lit archives of the Korean Space Research Institute, surrounded by old paper documents and dusty digital records. He had been searching through historical files for 3 days straight, following a hunch about the strange symbol they had found on NK 427. His screen displayed hundreds of old space program files from the early 21st century. Most people thought these records were complete, but Ta-won had noticed something odd. There were gaps in the numbering system of classified projects. Project 251, Project 252, Project 254, he muttered to himself, staring at his screen. Where is Project 253? This missing number had appeared in several budget reports, but with no details about what the project actually was. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Do-hyun. Any progress? Maybe, he typed back. I found a hole in the records. Going to dig deeper. Tai-won requested access to the sealed physical archives. These were papers too sensitive to be digitized, stored in a climate-controlled room deep underground. The archivist looked surprised at his request, but let him down. "These haven't been opened in decades," the archivist said, unlocking a heavy metal cabinet. "Most people don't even know they exist." Inside, Taiwan found a thin folder marked Project 253, terminated. His hand shook as he opened it. The first page showed a photograph of a serious-looking man in a lab coat. The name under the photo read, Dr. Kang Gunho, Project Director. As Taiwan read further, his eyes widened. Project 253 had been a secret quantum physics research program. The documents mentioned experiments with spatial tunneling and temporary bridge formation. But most importantly, they contained hand-drawn symbols that looked exactly like the ones found on NK427. He quickly photographed every page, his excitement growing. According to the records, Dr. Kang had developed a theory about creating temporary passages through space. The government had funded his research in secret, believing it could revolutionize space travel. Then Taiwan found the incident report. On May 15, 2021, something had gone wrong. The entire project was shut down and classified at the highest level. Dr. Kang and his core team disappeared from all official records after that date. Taiwan's phone rang. It was Du Hyun. "I found something big," Taiwan said before Du Hyun could speak. "A secret Korean space program from exactly 300 years ago. The project leader was using the same symbols we found on NK427. "Get back here immediately," Du Hyun replied, "and bring everything you found." An hour later, Taiwan presented his discoveries to the team. The room fell silent as he showed them Dr. Kang's photograph and the project documents. "Look at this," he said, placing the symbol from NK427 next to Dr. Kang's drawings. "They're identical. This isn't a coincidence. Dr. Kang and his team found a way to reach NK427 3 centuries ago." "But what happened to them?" Mireille asked, studying the documents. "According to official records, they failed and the project was shut down," Taiwan explained. "But what if that's not what really happened? What if they succeeded, and someone wanted to keep it secret?" Ji Woo, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "These equations in Dr. Kang's notes, they're describing quantum tunneling on a scale I've never seen before. He wasn't just theorizing. He had actually solved it." Do Hyun looked at the team. "We need to find out what really happened to Dr. Kang and his team. Those footprints on NK427 prove they achieved something extraordinary. And I think they left us more than just footprints to find." The team gathered in the high-security research lab at the Interstellar Archaeological Institute. New evidence from the old archives had arrived, and the discoveries were remarkable. Lee Do-hyun watched as Park Ji-woo carefully examined Dr. Kang's recovered research documents. "These papers tell us more than we thought," Ji-woo said, pointing to the complex equations. "Dr. Kang's team didn't just theorize about quantum tunneling. They built a working device." She spread out the blueprints on the large table. The design showed a circular machine with unusual energy patterns. The notes mentioned 2 key team members, Song Min-ji, the lead engineer, and Bak Jin-ho, who designed the control systems. According to these calculations, they created a stable quantum bridge, Ji-woo explained. "It was temporary, but it worked. They could open a pathway to specific points in space." Kim Mei-rae, who had been analyzing environmental data, stepped forward with her findings. "That explains something strange in our readings from NK427. We found traces of quantum energy frozen in the crystal layers. It matches the energy signature described in these old documents." Choi Ta-won had made another discovery in the archives. He pulled up an image on the main screen. "This is a classified government memo from that time. It ordered the immediate shutdown of Project 253. They were worried about international reactions if anyone found out about the technology." The memo revealed more details. The government had demanded all research be destroyed, and the team disbanded. But there was something else. A security report filed 3 days after the shutdown order. "Look at this," Todd once said, highlighting a section of the report. The team's lab was found completely empty. All the equipment, research, and personnel had vanished. The government assumed they had destroyed everything as ordered. Do-hyun studied the report carefully. But they didn't destroy anything, did they? They made one final attempt to prove their work was real. Jae-woo nodded, picking up an old notebook. "These are Dr. Kang's personal notes. The last entry is fascinating." She read it aloud. "Tomorrow we make history. The bridge is stable. NK-427 awaits. If we succeed, we leave proof for those who follow." The team looked at each other as the meaning became clear. Dr. Kang and his team hadn't failed. They had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, rather than let their discovery be buried. They chose to use it. They knew the government would shut them down, Do-hyun said. So they planned one last unauthorized mission. They took everything they needed and activated their quantum bridge. Nae pulled up the footprint images from NK-427. And they made it. These prints prove they successfully reached the planet. But something must have gone wrong. Why didn't they return? Jae-woo studied the quantum bridge designs again. The bridge was temporary. According to these calculations, they could keep it open for only a short time. If anything went wrong with the timing, they would have been stranded, Do-hyun finished. But they went anyway. They chose to risk everything to prove what they had achieved. The room fell silent as they considered the courage of that choice. Dr. Kang's team had faced an impossible decision: let their discovery be hidden forever, or risk their lives to leave proof for future generations. Do-hyun looked at his team. "We need to find out what happened after they arrived. Those footprints are just the beginning. If they knew they might be stranded, they would have left more evidence. We need to find it." Dr. Hansol Park stepped carefully through the crystalline terrain of NK-427, following a new set of readings. After the research team's discoveries about Project 253, she had returned to the planet with advanced scanning equipment. The purple sun cast long shadows across the glassy surface as she worked. Her scanner beeped rapidly, indicating something large beneath the crystal layers. "Base, are you receiving these readings?" she asked through her radio. The response came from Lee Do-hyun, who was coordinating the mission from orbit. "We see it," he replied. "It looks like a structure about 5 meters down. The crystal formation preserved it perfectly." Hansol adjusted her equipment and began the delicate process of scanning through the layers. Slowly, an image formed on her screen. The structure was rectangular, approximately 10 meters long. It appeared to be made of materials from Earth. "It's their shelter," she said, her voice filled with excitement. Dr. Kang's team built this when they arrived. The excavation team worked carefully, using specialized tools to cut through the crystal without damaging what lay beneath. As they reached the structure, they found it was more than just a shelter. It was a research station, deliberately preserved by the crystal formations. Inside, they discovered equipment carefully arranged and protected. Data storage devices, though old, had been specially sealed against the harsh environment. The team had planned for their legacy to survive. Back on the research ship, Do-hyun and the others gathered to examine the recovered items. The data devices contained detailed logs of the expedition. Park Ji-woo began reading through them, translating the old formats into modern text. "This is incredible," she said, displaying the first entry. "It's from Dr. Kang himself, dated May 18, 2021. The log revealed the final moments before their arrival. The quantum bridge had worked perfectly, creating a stable pathway to NK-427. But as they prepared to return, they discovered a critical problem. The bridge was becoming unstable faster than their calculations had predicted. They had a choice, Ji-woo explained, reading further. They could return immediately with no time to gather data, or stay and risk being stranded. Dr. Kang let the team vote. The logs showed that the decision was unanimous. They would stay, knowing they might never return home. Their mission was too important to leave without proof of what they had achieved. Kim Mei found technical data about their survival methods. They were brilliant, she said, studying the information. They used the planet's extreme temperature cycles to generate power. They even found a way to process the crystal formations for basic resources. The team had survived for several months, carefully documenting everything they learned about NK-427. They developed new technologies to cope with the harsh environment, making discoveries that were centuries ahead of their time. Choi Ta-won discovered their final message, dated 3 months after their arrival. The quantum bridge equipment had been damaged by a severe storm. They knew then that they would never return to Earth. But they didn't give up, Du Hyun said, reading the last entry. They spent their remaining time preparing all this data, preserving it for future discovery. They turned their shelter into a time capsule. The final words in the log were simple but powerful. To those who find this, we proved it was possible. Humanity's greatest achievements come from daring to do what others call impossible. The stars are waiting. Go further. Han Sol looked out the ship's window at the purple surface of NK-427. Somewhere down there, the remains of Earth's first interstellar explorers lay preserved in crystal, their sacrifice finally known after 3 centuries of silence. The research team worked methodically through the recovered data from Dr. Kang's shelter. Each new file they decoded revealed more details about the remarkable story of survival on NK-427. Lee Do-hyun organized the information chronologically, creating a clear picture of what had happened 3 centuries ago. The first month after landing had been most challenging. Dr. Kang's team had to adapt quickly to the extreme conditions. Their logs showed how Song Min-ji, the lead engineer, modified their equipment to withstand the harsh environment. She developed a special coating using local minerals that protected their devices from the temperature changes. Their ingenuity was remarkable, Park Ji-woo said, examining Min-ji's technical notes. She created solutions we still use today, but she did it with basic materials and equipment from 300 years ago. The team discovered that Bak Jin-ho, the systems engineer, had solved their most pressing problem, maintaining power in the severe conditions. He designed a system that used the planet's extreme temperature cycles to generate energy. The crystal formations, which everyone thought made the planet impossible to inhabit, became their power source. Kim Mei studied the environmental data they had collected. They didn't just survive here, she explained to the others. They conducted detailed research. They analyzed the crystal formations, documented the weather patterns, and even found ways to process the local materials for essential supplies. The logs revealed more personal aspects of their story. Despite knowing they were stranded, the team maintained their scientific discipline. They worked in shifts, keeping detailed records of everything they discovered. They even celebrated small victories, like when they successfully grew microorganisms and processed crystal solution. Dr. Han Sol Park, working from the surface of NK-427, found more evidence of their activities. Her team discovered tool marks and research stations spread across a wide area. The stranded scientists had explored far beyond their shelter, carefully mapping the surrounding terrain. They never stopped being scientists, she reported back to the orbiting research ship. Every discovery they made, they documented and preserved, knowing someday others would find it. Choi Ta-won found entries describing their daily routines. The team had established a careful schedule to manage their limited resources. They recycled everything, developed new ways to purify water from crystal deposits, and even found methods to supplement their food supplies using modified Earth organisms. Listen to this entry, he said, reading from Dr. Kang's personal log. Today marks our 100th day on NK-427. Our situation is difficult, but our mission continues. Every day we learn more about this world. Our discoveries will help future explorers understand not just this planet, but how humans can adapt to any environment. The research team was particularly moved by the final weeks of logs. As their supplies began to run low, Dr. Kang's team focused all their remaining energy on preserving their research. They carefully sealed their data storage devices, protected their equipment, and left detailed maps showing the locations of all their research sites. They knew they wouldn't survive, Du Hyun said quietly, reading the last entries. But they made sure their discoveries would. Everything they learned, every innovation they created, they preserved it all for us to find. The final log entry showed their dedication to science lasted until the end. Dr. Kang had written, "To the future. We may not live to see humanity reach the stars, but we prove it is possible. Study our successes and our failures. Learn from both. The universe is vast, but human determination is greater." As the research team finished analyzing the data, they realized they had found more than just historical records. They had discovered a testament to human courage, intelligence, and the unwavering pursuit of knowledge, preserved perfectly in the crystals of an impossible planet. Lee Do-hyun stood before the World Space Council in Seoul, preparing to present their findings about Dr. Kang's expedition. The discovery had grown far beyond simple footprints in crystal. The room was filled with scientists and government officials from around the world, all eager to learn about the remarkable message from the past. The research team had spent weeks decoding the final data package left by Dr. Kang's team. Hidden within the crystalline structures of NK427, they found an elaborate encoding system that had protected the information for 3 centuries. Dr. Park Ji-woo had called it the most brilliant method of data preservation she had ever seen. Today, we share with you the last gift from Earth's first interstellar explorers, Do-hyun began. He displayed the decoded information on the large screen behind him. The data contained detailed blueprints, theoretical frameworks, and practical solutions for safe interstellar travel. Dr. Han-Sol Park, speaking from NK427 via video link, explained how they found the encoded message. The team didn't just leave notes. They used the crystal formations themselves as data storage. Each layer contained different pieces of information, preserved perfectly in the mineral structure. The decoded data revealed that Dr. Kang's team had made extraordinary discoveries during their time on NK427. They had developed new theories about space travel, gravity manipulation, and environmental adaptation. Their work was far ahead of their time, and now it could finally be understood. Kim Mi-rae presented their analysis of the environmental innovations. They created technologies we are only now beginning to understand. Their methods for managing extreme conditions could help us colonize other harsh worlds. They turned their tragedy into an opportunity to advance human knowledge. The most significant discovery came from the quantum physics data. Park Ji-woo explained how Dr. Kang's team had refined their original theories about space travel. Even though their quantum bridge had failed, they had discovered why it failed and how to make it work better. They didn't just leave us their successes, Ji-woo said. They left us their failures too, and the solutions they never had time to try. They turned their stranding into a research opportunity that could benefit all of humanity. Choi Ta-won shared the personal messages they had found. Each member of the original team had recorded their thoughts for future generations. Their words were full of hope and determination, even as they faced their final days on the hostile planet. "We are not just reading about history," Ta-won told the council. "We are receiving a direct message from brave scientists who sacrificed everything to advance human knowledge. They knew they would not survive, but they made sure their discoveries would." The council members listened in silence as Do-hyun played Dr. Kang's final recorded message. "To our descendants, we came to this world knowing we might never return, but we came with purpose. Everything we learned, everything we discovered, we leave to you. Use it wisely. Push the boundaries further. The universe is waiting." As the presentation ended, the council chamber erupted in discussion. The implications were enormous. Dr. Kang's team had not only proven early interstellar travel was possible, but they had also left behind the knowledge needed to make it safer and more reliable. The legacy of their sacrifice would change the future of space exploration. Their research would save lives, advance technology, and open new paths to the stars. After 3 centuries, their final message had reached humanity, and their sacrifice would not be forgotten. 1 year after the discovery of Dr. Kang's team's legacy, NK-427 had transformed from an unconquerable planet into humanity's most important research site. The World Space Council had established a permanent base near the original shelter, naming it Kang Station in honor of the pioneering team. Lee Do-hyun walked through the new research facility, remembering how it all began with simple footprints in crystal. The station now housed over 50 scientists, protected by environmental systems based on the designs left behind by Song Min-ji and Bak Jin-ho. Dr. Han-Sol Park had become the station's director. She had chosen to stay on NK-427, continuing the work started by Dr. Kang's team 3 centuries earlier. Under her leadership, the station had already made significant breakthroughs in space travel technology. The quantum physics laboratory is ready for the first test, Park Ji-woo announced as she met Do-hyun in the main research hall. She had spent the past year developing a new version of Dr. Kang's quantum bridge, incorporating both the old team's research and modern technology. The laboratory itself was built into the crystal formations, using the same natural properties that had preserved the original team's data. Screens displayed complex calculations, many based on formulas left behind by Dr. Kang's team. Kim May-rae entered the hall, carrying new environmental readings. "The crystal processing system is working perfectly," she reported. "We can now create materials stronger than anything available on Earth, just as Dr. Kang's team predicted." The station had become more than just a research facility. It stood as a monument to human determination and scientific progress. Every discovery made there honored the sacrifice of the original team. Choi Ta-won had established a museum section within the station, preserving the story of Dr. Kang's expedition. Visitors from Earth could see the original shelter, the preserved footprints, and holographic recreations of the team's journey. "Today's test is particularly significant," Do-hyun told his assembled team. "We're attempting to create a stable quantum bridge using Dr. Kang's improved calculations. If it works, we'll have achieved the goal they set out to reach 300 years ago." The test chamber hummed with energy as Ji-woo activated the quantum bridge device. The team watched as a small, stable portal formed, just large enough to pass a probe through. It was a moment 3 centuries in the making. "Bridge is stable," Ji-woo announced, her voice full of emotion. "Power consumption is within predicted levels. It's working exactly as Dr. Kang theorized it would." The success meant more than just technological advancement. It validated the sacrifice of Dr. Kang's team. Their final message had not only been found, but had led to the very breakthrough they had given their lives trying to achieve. The World Space Council declared NK-427 would be officially renamed Kang's Legacy. The planet that had once been called Unconquerable had become the gateway to humanity's future in space. As Do-hyun looked out at the purple horizon that evening, he thought about Dr. Kang's final words. The universe was indeed waiting, and thanks to the courage of a small team 3 centuries ago, humanity was finally ready to answer its call. New expeditions were already being planned, using the knowledge preserved in the crystals of NK-427. The footprints that had started it all had led humanity not just to a discovery, but to a new beginning in their journey to the stars.